What is up, everybody? Shonnydman here, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are, sorry for this. Hope you guys are doing pretty well this week. We are back with a brand new episode as per usual on these Fridays. We're here with a brand new guest, so I will shift it to her and tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name's Stardust. That's what I go by online. I am a cosplayer. I am an improv actor and lover of Disney, Star Wars, and all sorts of anime, video game media. I kind of have a finger in all different media, so I love it all. And I think I've been cosplaying at this point over 10 years at least, going to cons.
Yeah, all right. So let's start with the improv. Where did that come from? How did you get started with that?
So I was a homeschool kid, and maybe that's where some of my awkwardness comes from throughout the years. We always joke about it. On my medias, they're like, I always say, I'm like, oh, I'm so awkward. Probably stem from that. But as a homeschool kid, to socialize me, my mom actually got me involved with the North Carolina Renaissance Festival. And I was about 12 years old when I started there, and that's kind of where I learned to blossom and get more, I guess, learn to interact with people better, learn to act, learn to go on the fly. And it was just so much fun. And especially being like a 12-year-old kid, your imagination is so active and wild. And I can't imagine a better place to really grow up and learn to act.
So what was so what so how long were you doing that?
I've been doing that since I was 12 all the way up until now. Here I am in my 20s. I actually just got cast in my first like major role at a Renaissance festival. I am officially cast in the Kinston Renaissance Festival here in North Carolina.
So so what was so before you were cast for this, what was some of the what are like what these like tryouts, that kind of thing? What were those kind of like?
Oh yeah, so there is tryouts for Renaissance Festival that you do have to go through. I will say, if you are looking to get into improv and like really start to learn how to act, and even if you're just looking for a community and a very accepting place, I always recommend Ren Fair. And the reason why I say that, and when you brought up auditions, it's very easy to get into it. You might not know thing about theater or improv, but as long as you go in and you say, like, I really want to do this, and you at least try, you will get picked 9 times out of 10, unless you're auditioning for like a major lead role.
Okay, okay. So were you nervous when you first started this? Like obviously like you say you were a homeschool and homeschool kids are tend to be awkward about things. So how did you break out of that awkwardness?
I think for me, I always love to make new friends. I've always been a social kid, even though I was awkward. I wouldn't say I was necessarily like socially awkward, like maybe a little bit, but I always loved like getting to meet new people. And as a kid, I loved to go and play with other kids. And so while I was nervous, I was also really excited. And definitely the first year was a little bit scary. But when I was actually out there in the costume and all the adults, essentially, you have to imagine, are playing pretend with you basically as they're interacting with you as their characters. It's so fun because you're not just playing pretend with like other kids, like everybody's playing pretend. So it's really fun. It's a really special place.
Okay, okay. Um I don't know many improv groups, but there is one that's like about 45 minutes or so from where I live that I've seen twice, and it has been very entertaining to watch indeed. So I like it. I like a good improv.
Me too. I feel like it's a lot of fun. It's fun to character build with other people too. I know like one of my favorite exercises we do is like the yes and, which I feel like essentially is probably what you do as somebody who does interviews too, cuz like someone might say something and you were like, "Oh yeah, but also let's build on that," you know? So it's the same rule in improv when you're
So moving from the improv to uh cosplaying. What got you started with cosplaying, and what was your first cosplay that you did?
Do you want me to answer as my first official cosplay or my first like unofficial
Let,
cosplay?
let's go with both. We'll roll with both here.
So I always tell people I think I officially started cosplaying a little over 10 years ago. That's when I started like dressing up at cons. But really, I've been loving dressing up and getting into costumes since I was a little girl. There's pictures of like me in I grew up in the 90s and Disney. Like I said, I'm a huge Disney fan, and Mulan was my princess. Like I loved Mulan, and I remember my mom talking about how one year for Halloween there was a Mulan costume at Walmart, and I was like, I have to have it, Mom. I want to be her. And so it was like every other year I was doing some different character and just wanting to be in a costume. Like that's just always been something I enjoyed.
Okay.
So that was, I guess, my first. And then as far as the first official cosplay, I believe it was in 2017. I went to Triad Anime Con and I dressed up as Alice from Disney's Alice in Wonderland, and I got a lot of really nice compliments, and people were just so kind, and I loved the atmosphere of everyone just being really nice and accepting, and I don't know, getting hyped up for the first time in public is just, it's obviously a nice feeling and it's encouraging. So it definitely made me want to come back, and I did.
So how many cons do you typically go to each year? Most of the guests I've had on, depending on where they live, they go to typically about three a year. Some go more. Some obviously it just depends on what their availability is. So what about you? How many cons do you typically try to go to?
Typically about the same, I'd say. I go to about like 3 or 4 cons a year, and then I'll also do other events intertwined with that. Like I hit a couple different Renaissance festivals. I might try to attend like one LARP event if I can, but usually I prioritize cons and Ren Fair.
You're not the only person I know that goes to Ren Fair. I think at least two or three of the previous guests I've had on have all been to Ren Fair, albeit it's probably different states. But it looks very fun. I always enjoy seeing uh everybody dressed up and everything. It looks like a lot of fun.
It's a blast. Have you ever gone?
I have not. I don't believe we have one around where I live, so I'll have to travel out to it. But that wouldn't be that much big deal if there was one close by.
It's a blast. I definitely love it. Like I said, that's kind of where I got started into like learning that it was like okay to be goofy and silly even as an adult, seeing these adults play and dress up.
Yes.
So I think they go hand in hand in many ways, and a lot of people will wear their cosplays to like the Ren Fair. So it's not just dressing up in Renaissance stuff, but it's if the character fits, and sometimes if it doesn't, people will just wear it to the Ren Fair because they.
So what? So what? What's the word? Oh, what are some? Obviously, you've been to the cons around where you live. What are some cons that are out there that you would love to go to at some point?
Oh, that's a great question. I I would love to go to Dragon Con. I have a lot of mutuals that go there. I was actually planning on trying to attend KatsuCon here in a couple weeks, but as I've been planning out my year, it just hit too close to another engagement, so I wasn't able to go. But Dragon Con, KatsuCon, and I wanted to go to Hallmat. However, I don't know if you heard the discord and the drama that happened at Hallmat this past year, but I was kind of like, I might wait until things cool down before I try Hallmat and make sure that it's safe.
Not to my knowledge. I to be fair, I tend I don't I'm not all that familiar or all that deep into like convention circles and things like that. So it's probably something I have not heard about.
Right, right. Yeah, it was mostly just a matter of security. Like nothing, like thankfully, like petty. Like I don't mess with that either. But yeah, they just had a couple like kind of scary security breach issues, and I'm like,
Okay.
I'm gonna wait.
No, I don't blame you.
Better.
Um, so for those who are watching or those who are listening, I think I came across you on TikTok. I mean, majority of the guests are either through TikTok or Instagram when I come across them. Um, you love your Star Wars, from what I can tell. Uh, so, which is exactly so. I think one of the things I saw was you in your kind of Mandalorian outfit, which I really loved. I thought it was pretty cool. Uh, what what got you into the Star Wars fandom?
Ooh, I think we got to travel back to the 90s again. My dad, he made me watch Phantom Menace. I think I was probably about 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. And I watched Phantom Menace because, that came out around that time. And I just thought it was so cool. These guys with these light swords. I'd never seen anything like that, obviously. And as a child, I was like, this is so amazing. And the fact that they could use the force, it was really mesmerizing. And so as I got older, I started watching more. And my parents were like, well, this has been around since we were kids in the 70s. And they showed me those. And then I fall more in love with it. And then I don't know, it's just always been like a core part of me, which is why I think it's so special. Like I have fond memories of like getting my first little toy lightsaber. It was purple because I love Mace Windu and I love his purple light. And I remember playing out in the field because I grew up on a farm, and I felt kind of like Luke Skywalker in a way. Like I was out kind of in the middle of nowhere, like dreaming of something bigger, kind of like Luke did. And I don't know, just fun memories like that. And I've just been in it ever since.
So the past couple of weeks, obviously, there has been a lot of within Star Wars community, a lot of you know unnecessary things being said and things like that. How did when that particular topic comes up, how do you typically approach it? Being a woman as yourself and just hearing that then certain people it's only meant for guys and things like that. How did you handle that kind of stuff that was going on when you first heard about it?
That's a great question. I know a lot of the community, especially female creators, definitely felt hurt by that comment. I don't even know who said it, to be honest with you. I know it was on an interview. I didn't take it too hard because I think in life, people are going to say ignorant things sometimes. And I think what that person said was honestly ignorant because anybody who's seen Star Wars knows that there is pivotal roles for both genders. And in every single trilogy, in each generation of Star Wars, there's always been at least one female character who's been very impactful and has made a huge difference. And if they didn't exist within that story, who knows where they would be? I mean, Princess Leia, going back to the original, like having the plans to take down the Death Star. I don't know. And she's just such a symbol of hope. And I don't know. I think anyone who's actually consumed Star Wars media knows that there's a place for women in Star Wars. And while it was kind of like annoying to hear, it didn't bother me too much because I know Star Wars and I know my story and I know that I belong in the community.
Yeah, and it was also very good to see not only women of the fandom standing up for themselves, but you have plenty of guys out there as well
Yeah.
who was defending women as well. Um, and even I was. It was a very, like you said, it was a very ignorant statement to make. Um, but people say ignorant things all the time, and how you respond to those moments says a lot about who you are as a person. And obviously, there's been a lot more positives from the fan base when it comes to Star Wars than what was particularly said.
Exactly, exactly. And ignorance itself comes from a lack of knowledge. So I think, like you said, it just came from a place of probably that person not really knowing what they're talking about, most likely. But I agree with you. It was so sweet seeing. I even had, like you said, like male followers and male friends and male creators I saw standing up for women and being like, this is a space for you. I don't know what this lady's talking about, but Star Wars, it's special because it's a space for everybody. I think everybody can feel seen within Star Wars to some aspect, which is really cool. But I think, like any fandom, there's always going to be some sort of silly discourse or drama.
Right.
There's good and evil in everything.
So, all right. So let's see. All right. So obviously you've seen all the Star Wars movies. What What are your top five favorite Star Wars films?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a great question. I always say Phantom Menace because that was the one that like won me over, and that was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw. So it's very nostalgic for me. I was not born in the '70s, unfortunately, or else I would probably love those too. But I love those as well. Phantom Menace, Rogue One. Actually, I loved that standalone. I thought it was incredible. It was deeply moving. I never cried so much in a Star Wars movie. A New Hope,
Okay.
um, the Clone Wars because I really love the romance aspect of that one specifically. And then, oh gosh, probably the Last Jedi because I have a soft spot for Rey. I end up defending my girl a lot.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, Rogue One is definitely is top tier for me. Um, because you don't see a movie, whether it's Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, DC, whatever, typically don't see a movie where pretty much all your main characters die towards the end of the film, and it just adds, greater impact to the original trilogy. And so, because we always heard, growing up, oh, we found a flaw in the Death Star, that kind of thing. But obviously, we never knew how that happened. Rogue One was a great way of showing that, and the characters all were fun. Obviously, yeah, it's very. Oh man, it was very, just emotional. Just watching basically one by one each member of Rogue One just going down. But obviously, the highlight of that movie is the Darth Vader hallway scene. Um,
Oh,
it was one
gives
of
me
the,
chills.
yeah, just one of the greatest movie moments of that I've seen. I just completely love
I agree. I agree. I remember I was in the theater when I saw it, and it was a little bit after, I'm sure you know, Carrie Fisher passed
it. Oh yeah,
away. And, I was already crying because of the impact of the movie itself and how it really put things in perspective of how serious the war was. But then at the end, I did not expect because I saw zero spoilers to see that like even though it was computer generated, that Carrie Fisher, Princess
oh yeah.
Leia turn around, and like, what is? This? And she's like, Hope. I lost it. I don't think I've ever cried that hard in movie theater. It was a little embarrassing.
And
But
then uh, and then obviously like Solo gets a lot of hate, but to be fair, I've always told people the movie is not bad. It was just poorly marketed by Disney, and like people who are listening probably heard this before. It came out at a very bad time. Um, because if I remember right, it came out just after Deadpool or Deadpool 2, and right before
yeah,
Infinity War. And so it was in a not a very good theatrical release spot anyway. But yeah, it was poorly marketed, and I Solo is a very fun movie to watch.
no, I love Solo. Getting to see them play like an actual game of sabacc, like on the table, and seeing how he got the Millennium Falcon and young Lando Calrissian, incredible. All of it was cool. I loved it. I agree with you. I think it was just poorly marketed because I think it's a good movie. People are always like, "Oh, I hate this Star Wars movie and this and that," and I'm like, I love them all. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure you might have seen on my think kind of recently, I kind of cracked down on people, and I was like, "Can we stop being so hateful? Like, why can't we just love all in total? Like,
right,
why do we have to hate anything?"
right. Uh, because because growing up, Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars. Well, growing up, the original trilogy was on at times, and I remember my grandparents watching it at times. But my first time fully getting involved with Star Wars was was Phantom Menace. But out of the
Nice.
prequel trilogy, Revenge of the Sith is by far my favorite of that particular trilogy of movies. Um, and then Empire Strikes Back is my favorite original trilogy, and then with the sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens is probably my favorite. Not saying the other ones are bad. Obviously there were things that probably could have been better in some aspects of those films overall, but The Force Awakens was very, very nostalgic. I think that's probably why I pick it as my favorite out of that sequel.
No, I love Force Awakens too. It did have a lot of callbacks to a lot of our favorite like nostalgic moments. I think they did a good job, and I think where I many agree, I think where they may have messed up just a little bit, if we have to critique it, is I believe they changed directors at some point, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of changed the direction of the flow of the
Yeah,
final.
yeah. All three of the sequel trilogies had different directors attached to it, and so yeah, so a lot of it. So I forgot. I think Abrams did the first one. I forgot who did the second one, but then the third person came in to do the Rise of Skywalker. Tried to retcon a lot of the mistakes in the Last Jedi, and so it was just a mess. Which is why probably the sequel trilogies get a lot of hate. It's just because there was really no clear direction of what they were trying to do. And probably that's why Ray is not as liked. Um, it's just they didn't do a very good job of presenting her in a good. I thought Force Awakens was a good start. But when I first saw when I was younger, I had a little questioning about it because it's one of those things where like you're watching her and she like is just all of a sudden able to start doing force based abilities and stuff like that, and I'm just kind of like, eh. But then obviously I just got over it, and I was completely fine with it. But there were moments within these sequel trilogies where you could see why fans aren't as you know, popular with these movies as they could have been.
Right. No, I could definitely agree with that, especially with the changing of hands and going so many different ways. And I remember there were so many different theories of like who is Ray? Like who is she related to? She's got to be related to somebody, and we all had
Oh
our different
yeah.
guesses. I thought she was somehow related to the Kenobis. That was my guess. Did you
Okay.
have any kind of guess before?
No, I did it. I think that was probably the most theories that I saw was that Ray was somehow related to Kenobi. Um, her being related to Palpatine was it was interesting, but I think I would have honestly I think I would have probably felt differently. There's two different ways I feel about the particular ending of Rise of Skywalker. Is that the first one is okay. I guess I'm okay with her calling herself Skywalker since it's a situation where it's not a family she was born into, but it's a family that she chose. So she chose to take her last name. But the other part of me is just kind of like, what if she just would have kept her last name Palpatine? You know, like how would
That's true.
how would people judge her if they knew she was basically like related to the Emperor? So, but overall, I think I was pretty much fine with the Rise of Skywalker, especially towards the ending where you get all these past Jedi communicating with Rey, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. I like this.
That gave me chills. I agree.
uh, And then what are your thoughts on the Star Wars TV series? How which one's your favorite out of those?
For a while, it was The Mandalorian,
Okay.
obviously. I've always loved Mandos, though. Before The Mandalorian was even a thing, I've been a Boba Fett girly. But I really now have really fallen in love with the Ahsoka series. Like, I love it. I beautifully executed. The acting is superb. They couldn't have chose anyone better, like, to be Ahsoka. Like, she is the essence of Ahsoka, and it's so cool. And I don't know, some of these new characters we're getting to meet, like Shin, she's fascinating.
Oh,
Love
everybody loves
her.
her.
And getting to see some of, oh my god, she's so cool. Um, and then seeing some of the characters from the animated series like come to life is like mind blowing. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I had a guest on the other week and we were talking about it, and we were talking about how like how well they cast these people to play the live action versions. Because like you look at the actress who did Sabine, you there were moments watching it where you could hear the mannerisms of Sabine come out. Uh, the actor who played Ezra looks basically like him, and so
Yeah.
it was just wild. I was like, man, how did they do this? But obviously the highlight of the series, or really the star of the series, was getting Hayden Christensen back as Anakin Skywalker.
Oh,
And because I was when previous guest I had on, we were talking about this because she went to Star Wars Celebration that was in London, and we were talking about
oh
how
my.
I was telling her how I really loved just the amount of love and happiness that Hayden had got when he came out on stage. Everybody was cheering for him because, again, growing up, everybody didn't like Anakin Skywalker. Well, yeah, they didn't like Anakin or really Hayden all that much, but um, but just to see how now he got all that applause, all that love, and you could just see it in his face, like how much it means to him, and he was outstanding in Ahsoka.
I agree. It was awesome. I feel like in many ways some of those people that got wronged kind of got that second chance in a lot of these like series. Like we've got, Hayden Christensen coming back, finally getting the recognition he deserves after getting like bullied essentially,
Yeah.
but then we also have, Jar Jar Binks actor who got to come and actually be like a role in a Jedi, and like coming back people were so excited, they were like clapping for him. That made me really happy too. That made me emotional. So I'm like, this is good. This is good for the. We needed that.
Um, and then so Nancy, there's also what did you thought about let's the Book of Boba Fett? I know you said you're a Boba Fett girly, so what did you like, and what didn't you like about the Book of Boba Fett?
So I'm gonna be honest, I didn't get to watch it all. I kind of got a little sidetracked with some other like I was catching up on a lot of my anime stuff, and I'm finally kind of starting to catch back up. My Star Wars series. I haven't watched, for instance, also Andor yet, and my friend is like, "You would love Andor.
Oh
You
yeah.
loved Rogue One." So I promise. So I think I might have unfortunately gotten to watch one episode of the Book of Boba Fett in my cause to try to catch up. I do want to watch more of it though, but from what I saw, thought it was really cool. I loved the assassin. I can't think of her name, but we saw her, I believe, in The Mandalorian as well, and it was the lady who played Mulan or voiced Mulan
Oh
in
yeah.
the animated movie. Yes, she's cool.
Ming Ming Na Wen, I think that's right. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's right, mate. Was
And
it?
I think he takes over kind of like the huts area in Tatooine.
Right.
Am I remembering that right?
Yes, he basically becomes the new crime boss of Tatooine.
That's really cool. I need to continue in that because that is awesome. That is so neat. I say one thing I did get a chance to catch up on, and I was wondering how you felt about it. Did you get to watch the I think season 2 of the Star Wars Visions, like the little mini episodes and animated like kind of bits that they give us on Disney Plus?
So I have actually not got around to watching that particular show just yet. I've seen some of it, and because I see a lot of it has different animation styles to it that caught my attention. I just have not got around to checking that out.
They're really really cool. I wasn't sure what I would think, but it's really neat because I believe we get to see, if I'm not mistaken, you know, the same person who did things like Howl's Moving Castle,
Mm.
um, Studio, yes,
Yeah,
Ghibli, I believe. I
yeah,
always say
yeah.
it wrong.
I think
People wrote, um, they do one, and then I don't know if you liked Avatar: The Last Airbender or
oh,
Legend of Korra, but
yeah.
they actually did an episode in season two. It was so good. Like I want them to do an entire Star Wars series now. Like so good.
uh, trying to think. So, was it Tales of the Jedi? How did you like that?
That is the animated series, kind of like going into like, I believe it starts off with Ahsoka being born, and then it's like Count Dooku's origins. Am I right in
Right,
remembering
right.
that?
You kind of see why Dooku went from being a Jedi to a Sith. Basically, it really gives you. I mean, obviously we're familiar with Ahsoka. We've had a good bit of years with Ahsoka and backstory with her. You haven't really had a good amount of backstory for Count Dooku, and Tales of the Jedi does that. You can see you can. It actually makes you. I mean, not that you probably couldn't figure it out for yourself. It makes you side with Dooku more on why the way the Jedi are, how complacent they are, and things like that. Um, because I was talking to somebody and we were talking about it because this kind of ties back into the Ahsoka series because we were talking about how is the interesting Jedi line that started with Count Dooku. Because if you look at it, you have Count Dooku, Qui Gon, Obi Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, and now Sabine. Probably with the exception of Obi Wan, each of those Jedi were very unorthodox Jedi in the way they went about things, and so
Mm-hmm.
it did a good job of like just giving you a lot of details about Dooku that weren't there before.
Yes, I did start that one. I don't think I've totally finished it. I think I'm almost finished with it, but I like to go into things completely blind. I
Oh
did not know what I was watching when I put it on, and at first I was like, "Oh, cute little like story about Ahsoka growing up, and I guess we're up off the planet. Wow!" And then like the next episode was literally like these two Jedi, and at first I didn't know who they were, and I was like, "Huh, this guy reminds me of somebody." And then like I realized, like slowly I together. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is Count Dooku and Qui Gon." And I remember I texted my one of my best friends, Matthew. He's also a Mando, and I was like, "Matthew, have you watched this yet? It's got Count Dooku. Oh my god!" Because he knows that he's one like Mace Windu and Count Dooku and Qui Gon. I think are some of the most intriguing Jedi's of their time. I just find them fascinating. And I think it's probably because I think they all three have in common, like kind of that gray Jedi way about things. I mean,
right.
Mace is probably the most strict out of all of them, but even he's got these moments where he's a little gray, and I think it's fascinating.
Um, what did you? I assume you watched all of the Clone Wars series.
Not all of it. Again,
Okay.
I got kind of sidetracked. I do know a lot of spoilers.
Okay.
It's been out so long.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been out so long, and it's been my fault for procrastinating. So I know a lot of what happens, and wow. I also have been scolded because I haven't quite reached Bad Batch yet, and I know I would love Bad Batch, so I definitely have my homework cut out for me.
um. So, all right. So, switching from Star Wars, let's talk about some Disney. What are your thoughts on some? Because these have been hit or miss with the general population. What are your thoughts on the live action Disney movies that have come out recently?
I think it's kind of like you just said, it's hit or miss on each of them. Like Cinderella, I think was beautiful. And I even kind of liked Beauty and the Beast. And Aladdin was pretty good, but then like The Lion King, I saw the cast and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." But then I saw the movie and I was like, something about this is like not hitting right for me. And I don't know if maybe it's because it's like CGI lions, but like what can you do? Like it's an animated movie about lions, it has to be CGI. I think it depends though. I feel like I'm missing a one that came out recently and I'm trying to remember like what all has come out.
Let's see. The Little Mermaid.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I think anytime they announce a live action, I get nervous. But I had listened to Haley sing, and I was like, "Oh my god, she's so talented!" Or Hallie, this is going to be great. And I went into it. I'd seen a lot of people complaining about it after it came out, and I was like, "I'm really nervous." I waited till Disney Plus for it to come out, and when I watched on Disney Plus, and The Little Mermaid, out of all the remakes except for Cinderella, those two were the only ones that actually like moved me to tears. Like the performances of those two girls doing the princesses literally had me like crying. Like Hallie, without even saying a word at times, had a way of just like making you feel what Ariel must have felt like, and it was just beautiful. So I do definitely favor some more over others, but I think it's going to be like that with the
Right.
classics because
Right.
people feel like they're classic. It's hard to change, but they're great. And most of the time, I'm nervous for Snow White because it's gotten so
Uh,
much backlash already.
oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I I I
That one's
I, I forgot about Snow White.
yeah, that one's coming soon. It was supposed to come this year, but I believe they delayed it. They're trying to fix some.
Yeah, it was. So with the lot, I haven't seen them all, but I've seen enough clips and things like that to basically form an opinion on them. Cinderella, I don't really remember watching. I remember watching it. It's like one of those things where you remember watching it, but you don't remember watching it. Um, but it looked good. I know it looked really good. Beauty and the Beast. What main complaint I've seen from people is that they probably shouldn't had Emma Watson in it. They should have had somebody who probably can actually sing. Like, no offense to Emma Watson or anything like that, but having the difference between Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid is that The Little Mermaid actually has somebody who can sing. So that's like
Mm-hmm.
that was like a thing I saw with Beauty and the Beast. Uh, Aladdin, I grew up with the original. I actually was not a big fan of Aladdin. Um, I think what I think for me, just me personally, I'm not sure how anybody else feels. Me personally, it didn't feel like an Aladdin movie. It felt like a Jasmine and Genie movie because those two seem to be the main focus of Jasmine first, and then Genie, and then Aladdin. That's how I felt like the order of that movie went with character prioritization. Um, but so it wasn't really my favorite. The Lion King, that entire movie was completely CGI. Like, and I was kind of like, why did you do this? Um, and I think I saw somewhere where they had like the actors and the actresses wear like virtual VR headsets to like put them in like the bodies of the animals that they were portraying, and I was like, why did you do this? Like, stop it, just stop it. Um, but I mean, it's sad
Not be.
because yeah, it's sad because the cast was really really good. It was a
Yeah.
star-studded cast, and it I think it the letdown of it is that you don't get the physical emotion from the animals like you would have gotten in the animation, because they try to go too real with the Lion King. Whereas you look at the Jungle Book and their live action, they did it's still the same issue, but it's a little bit better with you. It's easier to convey emotion with those characters in that movie than it is with the Lion King. Um, Mulan. When I first watched it, I was fine with it, but it was a situation where like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this movie, this movie doesn't make sense. And I think I'm pretty sure you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this movie wasn't supposed to be based off the animation. It was supposed to be based off the real life character who was Mulan. I'm pretty sure that's right. Which in that situation, I mean, it doesn't bother me as much, but I was just like, this movie is interesting. It was interesting. And I heard a lot of people in China didn't like it.
Yeah, so excited about that one too because like I said at the beginning of the recording, I love Mulan. It was actually one of my favorite. She was like my favorite princess growing up. Like that was my princess. I thought she was just so cool and so beautiful and so brave. I was like, oh my gosh. So when I saw they were making it, I was super excited, but instead of getting like the songs
Uh,
and the vibe that OG Mulan, it felt like an action movie. And I was like, what is this? And I have a couple of Chinese creators that I follow. One of them is like an author of this really cool series, but she was talking about how she would have rather them gone about it with like following the animated like storyline instead of trying to like change it to like fit the actual story. A lot of people love that, including like actual Chinese people, even though it has its flaws and it's not totally historically accurate. Like everybody was waiting for a girl worth fighting for
oh yeah.
and classic songs.
Yep.
Where is this?
Oh, let's see what other live actions. I think there was a Lady and a Tramp live action.
Cute. Which is ironic because, like I said, I don't know where the Lion King seemed to like lack in that one, but Lady and the Tramp, I actually kind of liked. It was pretty cute.
And there was another recent one. It was Wendy and Peter Pan.
I didn't watch that one. I heard about that one, and I heard like literally no good reviews
Yeah,
on it, and I
same.
love that. And I heard they kind of made it just like Wendy being a girl boss, and like that's it. Almost like how they took the story of Aladdin, and it was mainly centered around
Oh
Jasmine instead of like equal playing field, if you will.
yeah. Yeah. Let's see. There's that. Obviously, there's Cruella with Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, yes, that was cool. I liked that one.
What I find interesting was what was interesting with Disney and what they've done, because Disney and Sony have this same issue as well. It's where you take villains and try to turn them more into anti-heroes. And it's just kind of like,
Yeah,
but that's not what they were designed for in the first place. They were designed to be villains. I mean, well, probably with the exception of like Scar, Shere Khan, and in some of these other live action movies. Maleficent, for instance, she was a villain in Sleeping Beauty, but they turned her more into a anti-hero kind of character in her two movies. Um, so it was interesting for that. Emma Stone, I've seen I've heard good things about Cruella, and Emma Stone does a pretty good job in that movie. But it's just a thing like, just it's okay to have them be villains. It's not gonna hurt
right.
anything.
I feel like Disney is like going through a lot trying to figure out what I guess their new vibe is because I've heard a lot of complaints like what you just said, like it's like all these stories of turning the villains into good guys or anti-heroes, and then there's the complaint of like sometimes almost overdoing the girl boss trope, which then I think goes into the third complaint I've kind of heard people talk about is like the lack of romance. And it's almost like they want girl bosses so bad that they forget that a lot of us girls still really want to see romance in movies. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I heard that was a big complaint of their new movie Wish that came out, their animated
Oh
movie.
yeah.
There's a rumor, I don't know if you saw the rumor, but the rumor was that the star was originally supposed to be like a star boy, and there was also like a little bit of romance that was supposed to be between Asha and the star boy. And I've seen the concept art, and it's so cute and so beautiful. And I'm like, I would have done anything to see that movie. That
I yeah. And what was so I did not hear that one. One of the things I heard a lot of people talk about with that movie, I haven't seen it, but a lot of things I heard people talk about with the movie is like how they made the dad feel like a villain. So one of the things I heard was with the dad, he's like the king and he can grant wishes, but if the wish makes sense, basically. Whereas the
right,
daughter wants to grant everybody's wishes without restraint, and so it's kind of like, I mean, the dad's technically right. You know, you have to put some kind of restrictions or restraints on these wishes. You just can't willy nilly wish for whatever you want. Because like, what if your best friend wish for your wife or something, or something along those, or your spouse or
right.
something like that. The dad's like, no, you can't really do that. But the daughter's character's like, yeah, you can do that. Not a big deal. And so it was kind of like that's interesting. I think it it didn't look finished from all the trailers and promos for the movie. Visually, it didn't look finished for some reason. I don't know if that was the art style that they wanted to go with. If it was, they probably should have went a different route. But I mean, I don't know. It's Disney is they're they're losing on a lot of fronts right now with the way they're going about things. Uh, yeah, the lack of romance is it's something I didn't really notice, but now that you mention it, it does make sense. And that was like back to Snow White. That was an issue with what's her name? Rachel Zegler said. Like she doesn't need a man to rescue her or something like that. But everybody's kind of like, how did she wake up then from the curse?
Right, and it's like they already kind of did that with Maleficent because the prince was supposed to kiss Sleeping
Yeah,
Beauty, and then, but then they, I thought that was okay to change it for like, change it for one movie, like that's cute, make it like a motherly kiss that wakes her up instead of a
yep,
romantic kiss,
yep,
and I do understand the art, like consensual touch, like I get it, but at the same time, I think we need to remember that these were classics that we all loved growing up with, and we didn't, I don't know, girls want to feel represented by these really amazing powerful females, yes, and we're getting a lot of that lately, but there is still many of us who still want to be rescued, and there's so many women out there who are desperate to be saved, and that's what they want, and that's what they want to see to give them
yeah,
hope, and I'm like, let's mix it up a little bit, give us a little bit of
yeah,
everything.
yeah. It's definitely it's like there's nothing wrong with portraying a strong female individual that has her own wants and desires. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't neglect other side of that coin of people who grew up watching Disney, always dreaming of them getting their Prince Charming. That's can't
Hmm.
neglect those people. Because if you do that, you're not representing everybody. Um, so it was just Rachel Zegler. Oh man, I knew it was something because that was one of the things I was kind of like, this is not going to go well. This is very bad PR stuff right now for her. But
Right, and originally so excited when I saw her announced because I loved her performance in West Side Story,
yeah,
and I thought she really kind of Snow White too. I know some people were complaining because they're like, "Oh, she's Latina," and I was like, "She's perfect. She's beautiful. She's got the dark hair, like red lips, beautiful. Like I don't care. Like I don't care about the race thing. Like
Right.
she's amazing. She can sing. She's perfect." But then that interview came out, and I was kind of like, that doesn't sound like Snow White. And Snow White is really special to me and my family, especially because I've come from a whole line of Disney people. My family, they're all from Florida. My grandma, um, she loved Snow White. That was her first movie. Her entire house, I could remember when we would go visit her in Florida, was just Snow White everywhere. And she said she loved Snow White because it reminded her of her mother, because her mother had this like beautiful like red lipstick she'd put on and this short dark hair. She'd go out dancing at jazz clubs, and so it's just that movie's been really special to me. So I'm like, I don't want this to get butchered because like it makes me think of my grandma, and like it's just it's special, and I hope that they do it justice. It's the movie that gave Walt his big break too. So
Yeah, because I mean that movie came out. Either right before World War II kicked off, or it happened maybe a little bit after. I can't remember the exact year it came out, but it's definitely one of America's premier movies. Like everybody
right.
knows the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it's just it's a movie that does deserve to have it done correctly, giving everybody what they want. Because we don't get a lot of like love story movies nowadays. If we do, they're probably like on streaming services or things like that. But like it's been a while since we had like movies, theater wise, where it's just been romantic love and things like that. So it does need to be done properly.
Right. And I think they can go hand in hand. I mean, it's been done before so many times where the girl has been able to save herself and be powerful, but also like love somebody and like end up happy. And I can't remember what interview I watched. I wish I could credit them, but I know somebody had talked about how they felt like it's like almost like a double standard nowadays. Like when there's movies, a lot of the times where there's like a male hero, he gets everything. He wins, he defeats the bad guy, and he gets the girl. But lately, when it's female heroes in these movies, it's like, oh, she's a cool fighter. She can take down the villain, but she has to give up romance. Kind of like what we see with Wonder Woman, which was so heartbreaking. But yeah, give the girls everything too, for God's sakes.
and and now now they're working on a live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, um, which is interesting. One, I don't think you need a live action movie of this. I don't think you do. But if you're going to do it the way they're doing it. They have the same guy who did all three of the movies. He's on doing this movie, so I'm like, okay, that's I'm okay with that. Um, and it looks like people have been posting clips on TikTok. It looks like they're going like animatronic with some of the dragons, which I'm like, okay, you know what? I can actually get behind this. It may not look great, but I'd rather have something clunky like that than CGI, because CGI has not been doing great as of late. So I thought that was interesting.
I agree. No, I think it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see that. I don't know if this kind of goes hand in hand, but I know speaking of like animatronic kind of things, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I don't know if you're
Oh, I
into
watched
that or if
that.
you saw that or how you.
No, I'm not in. I knew nothing about Five Night at Freddy's, but I saw everybody talking about it on TikTok and Twitter, and I was like, okay, let me go check this out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is really good.
No, they did a cool job. I really love that they incorporated. I believe they did a mix of CGI, but they mostly had, from what I understand, the people in the suits
Oh
doing
man,
the animatronics, which is super cool.
loved it. It was such a good movie. It's like you see movies nowadays. Some are good when it comes to CGI and things like that, but like you can go back and look at the original Jurassic Park movie, and it still holds up to this day. And that was like
Yes.
early CGI stuff, and it still looks a lot
Mm,
better than some Marvel based content or DC based content. And it's just, oh man, it's wild. It's wild. Uh, what else? So, How to Train Your Dragon. I know they cast the girl. Forgot her name, but she plays Joel's daughter in the Last of Us series movie. She's been cast
that's
as Astrid.
oh wow.
Yeah,
That's gonna be cool to see.
a lot of controversy around that one as well as you would figure, but yeah she has been cast as Astrid. I can't remember here. Let me see if I can. I know this is like random, but
I
let
feel
me.
like I usually will give everybody a chance when it comes to casting. As long as like they do a good job, I don't see any reason to complain. I know there was a lot of backlash with the Percy Jackson series as well and their casting of Annabeth, but
Oh yeah,
I've heard nothing about her portrayal as Annabeth. So I'm like, give people a chance because 99% of the time, there's a reason why the directors casted them.
I've heard with the Percy Jackson, like everybody was like hyped up on it, but it's kind of gone downhill a little bit. I haven't seen it, so I'm not really sure. I'm not. I can't really say whether or not it's true, but that's what I've heard. Uh,
Yeah, I haven't got to watch it yet. It's on my list as well because I like you can see with myself, I'm a reader as well, and I did read a lot.
oh, and see, and then there's also a live action Moana that's in the works as well.
Yes, and I think Dwayne's coming back as Maui, which is really great. I was sad to hear that. I can't think of her name. I don't want to mispronounce it. Hmm, Alon. I can't remember it.
It's okay,
But the girl who originally voiced
right?
um said she wasn't going to come back, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
we love you. Come back.
Um, and then I don't know if it's,
Although
but there's like Lilo and Stitch as well.
I did hear talk about that. I think they released who they casted as Nani.
Oh
And
yeah,
she looked
that's right. That's right. It was yeah, because it was like this whole this whole blow up because people were like outraged because they changed Cobra Bubbles. They changed him from like what he was in the animated movie to like a, I think like a female caseworker or something like that.
yeah.
And everybody was like just up in arms about it. And then they came out and was like, no, Cobra Bubbles is in the movie. It's fine.
So are they correct? Are they casting then the original guy who like voiced him?
No, I think he passed away a couple of years
Oh,
back.
that's
I think
sad.
so. If it, yeah, uh, it was Duncan something. I can't remember his last name. I think he passed away, but I could be wrong. I haven't seen him in anything as of late, so uh, maybe. But yeah, there's that. I always laugh because it's funny because I'll see people talk about this. It's just like you see how much all the different how Disney is changing up the characters and things like that, and people. It's always funny because people will like talk about Tarzan, and there's just like go ahead Disney, put a black guy as Tarzan. See how that works out for you.
I feel like a lot of people usually always freak out too. I mean, not everybody, because like I said, I'm the type I wait
Oh
to
yeah,
reserve judgment
yeah.
until I perform. But people always freak out at first when they have these swaps, and then you've got people who are still going to be mad afterwards. But usually, people are usually pleasantly surprised by why Disney like chooses to do what they do.
um, is it because I think I think Tarzan is a movie that Disney's probably not gonna touch. Uh,
Right.
I think Pocahontas is another one I don't think Disney will touch either. Unless,
Thinking the
although,
same thing.
although to be honest, with the amount of representation that I've seen from the Native American community, I would be okay with it as long as it's not whitewashed or anything like that. Um,
Right.
because if you've seen like Marvel's Echo, for instance, that came out a couple of weeks ago, I was it a good show? I mean, it was about average, but I loved the Native American representation that was in it. Um, because you don't see a lot of that in media or of some source. Now, there's Echo, Reservation Dogs. Um, there was that Prey movie about 2 years ago. So I think I'll still be hesitant now if they attempt to do it, but as long as they do it the right way with that particular community, then I will be fine with it.
Right. It would definitely have to be handled with like a lot of love and a lot of care. And I feel like they'd have to make it in a way that did right some of the wrongs, if you will, of the animated one. Like I know they would definitely need to stay away from it being like a love story.
Oh yeah,
Given, what many people at the time, I don't know if it was a lack of ignorance at the time when it came out. They just didn't know, or if they were just I don't know what they were doing at that time. But I knew like as a little girl when I watched it, I was just starstruck. But then I learned the real story and I was like, oh,
oh yeah,
this is not really
yeah,
him. This is
yeah. A lot of people, a lot of people like some of these Disney movies as well, including like there's like facts. Well, from a historical standpoint and a book reading standpoint, like yeah, Pocahontas. That was if people knew that, I was like, oh, I don't think you need to do this. Definitely need to up the age of her, guys. That's for sure. Um,
yes.
because I remember maybe it's Grimm's Fairy Tale. It's what I'm thinking of. Wait, is that a book? I think that's a book. Um,
Yes.
because it's like it gives like a much more horrific side of some of these Disney characters, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what was one? What was one? I think Little
I
Mermaid.
know Sleep, that one too. Both of them, like the original story is really a lot.
I think is for those who are watching and listening, listen, you definitely need to go check those out. They're like with Little Mermaid because like in the movie, she get her voice back and she marries Prince Eric, but in the book, I'm pretty sure she offs herself towards the
She
end.
turns into sea. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a little. I would honestly, to be honest, I would actually love to probably see some of those stories be made just check those out. I think that'd be um an interesting thing.
Yes. They would be sad, but they would be fascinating.
Yeah. um.
um
Wait, I'm sorry.
um oh, I'm sorry too. I wish they would do the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I loved that one. And the
That's a good
music
one.
is gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely it was. That's a movie that I didn't care as much about as a kid. But it's a movie now that I love, and I definitely if it's on, I'm definitely watching it. The '90s and early 2000s was just such peak animated movies. I mean, Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Aladdin, Lion King, Finding Nemo. It was just banger after banger after banger with some of these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they call that too, the renaissance of Disney was that whole era
Oh
of
yeah,
like the 90s and early 2000s.
yeah, and then you had like Treasure Planet come out. Uh
That would be
oh yeah, that would be fun. I think that would be a pretty fun movie if they did that. Um, what was another one?
Atlanta.
It's another favorite Disney movie was Oliver and Company. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but
Yeah, that would be cute. And Atlantis would be cool to see
oh
live
yeah,
action.
yeah. Would you because
Or Brother Bear.
oh Brother Bear, yes. Forgot about some
That
of
would
these
be cool.
movies.
I love me some Disney. I do.
I'm trying to think what other Disney movies I've seen as a kid. Oh God, one that terrified me as a kid. Was it the Black Cauldron?
The Black Cauldron was terrifying.
My
I 100%
gosh.
agree. That was this. I think that's the scariest Disney movie they've probably ever made, and I think that's why they like almost tried to like bury
Yeah.
it.
It's just, oh my gosh, it was just terrifying. What else did I see?
Now that
Yeah.
would almost give like Lord of the Rings kind of vibes, which would
Oh
be
yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah. If they were to do a remake of that, I feel like that's kind of the direction that they would go. Is make it a little bit more like Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Oh, that would be cool. Lord of the Rings was one of those two. I feel like that was like super groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I know that's not Disney. Really cool
Yeah.
movie, nonetheless.
Uh, what's it? The Sword and the Stone.
That would be cool. That would be really cool. They they have so many good movies to pull from. They
Yeah.
start pulling from some of the maybe leave some of the classic like princess movies alone and then start going for some of these other ones that they have so many good that could make so many good remakes for.
Oh yeah. Like it doesn't even have to be like in some of those movies too. They don't have to be love based stories. They could just be like the Black Cauldron. You could just make that a horror movie. Honestly.
Right. And same with like Sword in the Stone. That one doesn't end with a love story. I mean, the kid is like 13 years old
Yep.
or 12 or
So,
something. Um,
uh,
but yeah, they options for sure.
yeah, I think another favorite of mine was Quest for Camelot.
Oh, I love Quest for Camelot. That
So
is a
good.
good movie.
Um,
I mean, I wonder the live action now that they own is it DreamWorks? They the live action Anastasia, if they would do that,
oh yeah,
that'd be cool.
it's also a good movie.
Yeah. And I know they have like the musical of it, and it seems to be people are wanting to make a lot of these musicals into movies. So that I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, they just got so much. Yeah, it makes you remember how much they got because when they did that 100-year anniversary little video clip, like just all those characters.
That was so cute. That made me very emotional to watch as I heard it made a lot of adults feel seeing all of the things we grew up with. And then there was the cute moment of like Mickey looking at Walt's
Oh
picture.
yeah,
Ugh, I
yeah.
cried. I cried.
Oh yeah, it brought back something because you had Robin Hood, but it was like what it was like animal versions of Robin Hood. Um, that's just adorable. Oh man, Fantasia 2000, and it was also good. Man, it was such good times.
I just love the nostalgia of it all. I think that's why I think I'll always love Disney, even when they make me upset sometimes with their decisions. Like I just can't help.
Yeah,
It's what I grew up on, and I love the parks. Do you ever go to the parks, or are you like a park person?
I have never been.
You would love it. You got to add that to your bucket list.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely something on my bucket list of it. There's a lot of places I want to go, so I I don't know if I'll get there eventually, but I'll definitely make the attempt to.
Yes, definitely. It's really cool. It's a cool place. I cry every time I walk through the gates.
Well, all right, guys, that is where we will end this week's episode of Nerd Talk. You guys enjoyed it. For those who are watching, as per usual, up on screen now are all the ways that you follow and support. But for those who are listening on podcast, how can they find you?
So I have the same username on TikTok and Instagram. It's at ll.stardust.ll.
So be sure to go and give a follow, show some love and support. It was such a blast having you on.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun talking with you. I would love to talk more sometime. You're awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm all like a lot of the listeners know. I'm always trying to like come up with different ideas to bring people back on. So um, this won't be the last time of having you
Oh, thank you so much. I had a blast. I truly did. You're so fun to talk to.
on. All right, guys. So be sure to also check out the channel here as well. Plenty of content going on at the moment, so be sure you're up to date on that. But other than that, guys, thank you for stopping by and listening and or watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. And other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.